Ladies and gentlemen, we will just give a couple of seconds for settling all the attendees, and then we will start with our video traditionally and proceed with the webinar. Thanks for your patience and welcome to the webinar. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 20th COP26 webinar for local governments and municipal authorities constituency, hosted and convened by ICLE, Local Governments for Sustainability. For the presentation and webinars for the local governments and municipal authorities constituency, as we have mentioned before. My name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy and also delivering the function of focal point as well. We will have an hour's long webinar. Traditionally, as you have mentioned, as you have seen, this is the 20th round that we are having, this monthly webinars. It is convened in two sessions, one in the morning for Europeans and on the afternoon, in order to enable Eastern and Western Hemisphere participants to join us. For housekeeping rules, this will be recorded and it will also be uploaded on the YouTube channel of ICLE as well, the recording as well as the presentation you can find afterwards. If we proceed with the just again some background information, the video that you have seen, if you haven't joined the sessions before, is the 5th anniversary of the Paris Agreement, the input from local governments and municipal authority. On our YouTube channel, you can also find other partners' contributions and statements. You can also access to the previous webinars on our channels, and our base on a virtual base and information source for COP26 will be, as usual, citizenregions.org, which will be soon updated with additional information as well. For today's session, we are now in the last less than 6 weeks to go to Glasgow Climate COP. So instead of spending too much time on the basics of COP26, I would try to recommend that we would focus more on the latest updates in terms of both the logistics and also preparations, both thematically, but also in terms of our mobilization during Glasgow conference. So for those who are new, why are we interested or why are we excited about the Paris Agreement? Because it's opened a new era. It's a new era because it has universal commitment for multi-level action, 1.5 degree goals, as well as climate neutrality. the UNFCCC and Kyoto Protocol in the past 25 years were limited in scope and limited in vision. Therefore, Paris Agreement is a new era. It obviously is in the shoulders of national governments above all, because they are the ones who sign it. We all know that none of the national climate plan, which is the first NDCs, none of them are fit for Paris Agreement because none of them were prepared before, that all of them were prepared before Paris Agreement. So none of the existing national development, national determined contributions, in fact, are not aligning themselves with these above three main principles. Therefore, the success of COP depends on work at home, and every nation should bring a new and enhanced NDC. That's the key that will make COP26 success. If this doesn't happen, it doesn't matter what type of commitments or announcements comes in Glasgow, COP26 will not reach the goal. Luckily, we'll touch upon it. There are really good progress on that. Local and regional governments, before Paris Agreement, we were voluntarily contributing to the climate action. Obviously, progressive local governments were always saying that climate action cannot be decoupled from urban development. But with the Paris Agreement, with the paragraph 5, where we are recognized as important partners, we cannot take it as a voluntary action. Therefore, our recognition brings our responsibility. So every urban development plan should respect and should complement the Paris Agreement, and it's now a core duty. That's why climate neutrality goals, 1.5 degree goals are all responsible for all of us as local and regional governments. And obviously, we are talking about the 1.5 degree goal. This cannot be achieved only by laws and regulations. It really needs citizen engagement. It really needs community empowerment. And especially the people who have not benefited in the past centuries about the fossil fuel era, those urban poor, especially those who are looking for the better world, should see the Paris Agreement as the vehicle, so that we should also enable them to embrace these opportunities. So it's not just the technology providers, but those who need to access to the better living and better livelihoods through healthier and greener communities with more climate-friendly development. So that is the essence. You may recall, this is recalling the previous progress in sense. We are talking about a cyclic process. Every year, the country who hosted the COP is the responsible for throughout the year, and the country who will host the COP is preparing their agendas, their priorities, so that as soon as on the first day, they become the responsible party to lead the process. As of today, for the past 2 years, it is Chile's shoulders on the Chilean government, Minister of Environment, Carolina Schmidt, and the Gonzalo Munoz, the high-level champion, which is one of the new mechanisms, this Paris Agreement, is responsible. Over the past few months, we had June sessions, November sessions, and there was also another conference, but none of those meetings were official. Or let's say they were not negotiation sessions. So since December 2019, there is no negotiation that is taking place under the UNFCCC Convention. Now we are talking about the UK COP26 presidency, or president designate will be in person as Alok Sharma. They are trying to introduce new mechanisms. They are trying to say that this is the most inclusive COP. They have assigned a number of advisors in addition to Nigel Topping, which will be the counterpart to Gonzalo Munoz. They have regional ambassadors. They have finance and adaptation advisors. They have a people's advocates, or they have another bro. And they have also established a number of engagement challenges. For example, Friends of COP, where local engineers are represented by Los Angeles Mayor, chair of C40, who is just being assigned as the ambassador of US to India. So we'll see who would be the next representative of local engineers in this community. There has been dialogue with constituency focal points. There is a number of advisory councils, including with the mayors and devolved administrations, energy, disabled, and Friends of Lost. These are the channels that UK is currently using. Unfortunately, the results of those are not too much visible, what exactly they are coming up. We are continuously recommending the UK presidency that they should make this publicly available. Every presidency has their priorities. The words are very simple. It's not groundbreaking, but in terms of mitigation, for example, making coal history, or making electric vehicles revolution, that is type of the initiatives that the UK wants to achieve. Adaptation combining with nature. Finance in terms of especially this $100 billion per annum is the proper themes that UK is working on. But more importantly, they also have a theme called collaboration, which is really speaking to the heart of our stakeholders, because that is the vision that the national governments are not alone in the Paris Agreement, that they should embrace multi-level and multi-stakeholder collaboration. As we said, COP26 advocacy is now advancing in three, let's say, legs. One is the regular UNFCCC process, which is relatively slow motion. There are workshops, but there are not the decision making. The UK presidency is convening monthly consultations. Some of them are opening for inputs from observers, but mostly they are closed for the negotiators. They are convening several international meetings, for example, Climate and Development Ministerial meeting in March, or July Ministerial. These are the mechanisms that the UK has used, but constituency-based engagement, I must confess, was not extremely well defined. So we were rather receiving the outcomes afterwards. And the high-level champions have been very active. Since Madrid, they have opened Race to Zero and Race to Resilience. Climate action pathways, the thematic working groups have developed their new strategies, and there's a new vision called Race to Zero Breakthroughs, which are the sectors that makes really the shift to a low carbon climate resilient economy. So UK presidency program, we'll go through it in more details, but this is the first time a presidency has developed such a comprehensive package of themes every day that is following the negotiations. I see one hand. Let me just check.
Hi, Yunus, it's me. Just to let you know that we cannot see your screen.
Really?
So yeah.
Oh.
I think you need to restart. Yeah. Sorry.
It's good that someone raised it. Was Eloise or another colleague?
Yeah, Eloise.
Thanks, Eloise. I was rushing too fast. That's good to know. Well, luckily these were nothing new. For those who have been participating in our calls. So the UK presidency program, these themes are unique for the first time, and throughout COP, the UK presidency, a COP presidency, is encouraging discussions around these specific themes. Of course, one of the additional uniquenesses is that this was also traditionally an action agenda, the global climate action agenda. Again, the things that is different between the past COPs and this COP is that in the climate action agenda, it was limited to 3 to 5 days. Now you can see it is across the whole 12 days or even 13 days. And obviously, because there's a UK presidency track and because champions track, it will be a kind of an interesting, and in sometimes, according to what we can see, there may be, let's not conflicting, but overlapping agendas, overlapping events. We all know this can be possible at COP, but this time it will be particularly, I think, interesting because UK presidency has their own agendas. We will go to it day by day in the agenda of LGMA Pavilion. Let's recap. When we decided to kick off our roadmap as LGMA towards multi-level action in December 2019, there were no NDCs that was meaningfully visible in terms of both ambition nor multi-level engagement. During the pandemic period, during these 2 years, important things have evolved. So what we are seeing now, we are changing our gears towards a more robust and result-oriented roadmap that we would assess the success depending on also what will be bring and what will be take out of Glasgow. And most importantly, and this is the first priority that we would like to emphasize. You all know, we will touch upon this, that there are huge discussions about how the COP should convene. But in fact, what we try to communicate, and we would be very happy to have your thoughts about, is that for us, local and regional governments, we would like to promote the notion that the 31st of October, the opening day, which is the World Cities Day, is in fact not just opening the 2 weeks of COP, but in fact, it is the opening of a second phase of the Paris Agreement, and it is the new normal that multi-level collaboration is the time for that we should be embracing. Why do we want to announce this? Because we have seen around 15 or 20 national governments who have worked through different channels, from US to Rwanda, from Dominican Republic to Japan, who have introduced more and more ambitiously engagement of local and regional governments. So we would like to see that These NDCs talk to our commitments on Race to Zero, Race to Resilience. Why? Because we are all aware, neither the second NDCs nor Race to Zero commitments, none of them can be fulfilled or met if they act alone. Neither national governments nor local governments can each reach their targets if they do not collaborate, because 2030 targets are significantly challenging in terms of economical and technological and societal changes, and this needs collaboration. And that is exactly the spirit of Paris Agreement being implemented, and we're happy that national documents are reflecting on that. And our hope is that this is shared by every nation, that every nation's NDC should be prepared with this spirit. Second, and that will of course be connected to the Glasgow Article 6, the finance is important. What we want to position is that urbanization is a sector that both market mechanisms or non-market mechanisms can embrace. And obviously, traditionally, we are talking about this direct access to climate funds, and we should not give this up. We have funds, a number of funds that we have to improve their modalities. And the third is, of course, we're all talking about that 1.5 degree goal is transformative. We cannot speak about climate mitigation anymore without addressing food, without addressing circularity, nature, climate justice, social equity. So it is once for all that we have to embrace our national climate plans or local and climate plans that has inputs from all these other sectors, but also introduces important visions to other sectors that is listed here. So that should be our effort in the way forward. And finally, this is a bit more procedural, but you may have heard at the local LGMA process, there is so many bodies that have been establishing channels for local and regional governments and other stakeholders. We should be much more professional, both thematically on sector-wise, but also at the regional level. And we are seeing this in Latin America, we are seeing this in Europe, we're seeing this in Asia, that as a constituency, we are both much more prepared and also even much more inclusive in terms of our preparations for this process. So we have to cement this by COP26, and so that we are much more confident on the way forward. Let's remember what has happened since our last meeting. That was August 25. Actually, it was not too long ago. But most of the updates, as you see in this slides, are in fact.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but you are not sharing a screen.
Really?
Yeah.
What's going on? Oh my God.
Just try again, or if you want to send me the presentation, I can share it for you. But just try again. I think.
I'll just try.
Yeah. Now we have it. Yeah.
Better. Okay.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. And I see so many messages in the chat box. I am terribly sorry for that I have noticed, but we will come back to the chat box messages. I see Jeet, yes, Shuan, they're all referring to the slides, but Heloise has also substance, so we'll come back to the points about Heloise. And let me check if there were any other in the QA box. Yes, sharing screen was always referred. So sorry for the inconvenience, and definitely you will receive the slides later on as well. So what we have seen over the past, let's say, 3 weeks, first of all, there are significant announcements from the COP26 presidency on the 1st of September, on the 10th of September, which is much more shaping the logistics. The important thing is that all these announcements are on the website of the presidency. We have been repeatedly asking them that they send us official documents to UK presidency, but also UNFC secretary. The logic is simple. We're happy to convey these emails or Twitters, but at the end of the day, when you say, and I mean representatives of local and regional governments, you are bounded by your public administration protocols that you would have to assign official allowance, and you should be getting official decisions, and you cannot do this just a Twitter announcement. So we have been requesting this from the UK COP26 presidency. We hope this will be improved soon. The UNFCCC also announced several preparatory documents in terms of how to take place how to participate in the UNFCCC COP26. However, as a very well-known wording saying, the devil is in the details. We still don't know what is the total number of badges that will be used at the COP and how this is shared. We still don't know when there are plenaries or when there are contact groups, how local and regional governments, but also other stakeholders will have access to these negotiations. These are still unknown, and we are waiting for more comprehensive updates, both from UNFCCC and the UK presidency. And on the 6th of September, UNFCCC also announced blue zone quotas. We were expecting that it will be less than Madrid because physical space will be much more limiting, obviously, but the shrinking of the delegation size in some offices, in some organizations, it's even up to 10-fold. It is striking to see so many little now delegation badges are available. Of course, this is important because these will be the people, I mean, those who receive badges will be the people who would receive funding from the quarantine management practices from the UK. This means that the number of observers are already extremely limited, and they will be also extremely limited access to quarantine funding as well. What we also heard, UNFCCC announced the annotated agenda, which means the supporting documents or more detailed descriptions of the day-by-day planning or agenda-by-agenda planning for the COP. Interestingly, the high-level segment is now split into two. This has been a practice since Paris. It's usually starting with a leaders summit, and it's continuing as a high-level segment in the second week at the ministerial level. However, the important thing is that this time, I mean, the presidencies always have this authority. So high-level segment is one part of the element, which is heads of states, delivering states or ministerial statements. But World Leaders Summit is a separate planning, which means there may be different type of engagement, and hopefully there will also be engagement of stakeholders. However, from the UNFCCC announcement, or until now from the COP26 presidency or champions, we haven't heard any information who will be engaged and how. It's important to remember, for example, in Paris in 2015, when leaders were in the sessions in the COP21 venue, none of the NGOs were allowed to step in. Even the pavilions we had in the blue and green zone, they were all closed. They were not open for visitors. We still don't know how this will be happening during these days at COP. It may be likely that such a restriction may come on the first day, 1st of November, and we are expecting the 2nd of November could be much more open. But these are all assumptions at the moment. The UK president says that they will work with their diplomacy network, which is the UK embassies. Of course, as a presidency, they have all these rights, but we would expect them to respect our constituency-based engagements. And we also would like to see how the champions agenda will also contribute through the Marrakesh partnership or Race to Zero. We still don't know this. And that is exactly the challenge, as we have mentioned at the beginning, because now UK presidency also has such a strong action agenda. Who is doing what and how these are connecting to each other is something that we have to understand better. One important progress, very remarkable progress. It's one of the milestones, not just for this year, but across the years, over the coming years. The statement from Climate Action Network, the environmental groups, the largest environmental groups participating in the process, they called for postponement of COP26. It was not an easy decision. We are all aware this kind of a statement is extremely risky, but Climate Action Network had long consultations, and their logic is that the vaccinations and preparations are so late and so delayed, and we are worried that if an in-person meeting takes place in COP, it can take place, but it will not be inclusive, it will not be representative, and they are simply saying that the outcomes could not be legitimate even because of this weakness. So what they're saying is that, why don't you make everything ready? Why don't you make vaccination much more? And of course, make vaccination not just as a donation, but a global right in human rights, obviously, which is beyond the discussions of climate negotiators, obviously. However, it has a lot of sense and there's a lot of points that we have been supporting. On the day Climate Action Network announced this, UK presidency announced that they will offer funding for quarantine costs. Until Climate Action Network announcement, none of such thing was clear. So at least Climate Action Network stepping up had helped this to maybe trigger. However, funding of vaccination or funding of quarantine is just one part of the picture. We all know that there are other issues. So this was an interesting, it was all communicated on media. And on the same days, Climate Vulnerable Forum, where Climate Action Network was also strongly collaborating, they also made a statement saying that they want a COP that should be strong and inclusive. They didn't call for postponement, but they said that inclusive COP is our priority. So if an inclusive COP is not fulfilled, it doesn't mean, I hope, Climate Vulnerable Forum will continue to focus on a COP. And similarly, 1 week after, the Least Developed Countries Group, which is one of the core partners of Climate Vulnerable Group, officially made a statement, public statement, that they are extremely concerned that process logistics are not going on track, and they're worried that they will be excluded from this process. Obviously, this is also a discussion that we are having continuously. What is the authority? Who decides on the modality? Is it the Bureau of COP25, which is the party that is being presiding and the countries representing, or is it the COP presidency that will host the COP? One example was that in the case of biodiversity, the Bureau decided the modalities. Of course, they received inputs from China, but the Bureau said what type of a COP they want to have. And China, as the host country, approved this proposal. So there has been a different dynamics. And because climate also one of the Rio conventions, it's not too much different than biodiversity, we believe it's worthwhile to consider what is going on. And again, we have 9 constituencies, we have several new groups, but Women and Gender Constituency, another very strong, very wide constituency, just yesterday also announced that they support or they endorse Climate Action Network. So 2 out of 9 constituencies are now asking for postponement of COP. Obviously, constituencies are not the decision makers, so it's not guaranteed that our calls will be heard or their calls will be heard. But one important negotiation group has put clearly that they are not happy with what's going on. So we have to see how this will be reflected to the planning of the presidency and the UNFCCC, because as we said, as of today, since June, we have not received any official UNFCCC or presidency letter that expresses all these things. So for those who have not been following or those who would like to catch up, the UK government has made updates in their website, on their website of the presidency, not in the UNFCCC, on the 9th of August, on the 1st of September, and on 10th of September. Those announcements are not kept as archives, so you will always find the latest information there. But what we know at the moment is that red list countries, if you're vaccinated, you would go to quarantine for 5 days. Again, red list countries, if you're from these countries and if you're not vaccinated, you will go to 10 days. 10 days quarantine means you are in the middle of nowhere, somewhere close to the airport. You will not communicate, interact anyone except virtual communications. Your food will be provided. The quality of hotels, there's no guarantee. And you'll just spend 5 days there. If you have privilege to have internet access, you can continue your business. But obviously, this is, I don't want to call, this is taking up 5 or 10 days, very valuable days from those people. I mean, all these people are having their assignments at home, they're working. So it's a huge barrier, obviously. And meanwhile, those from green and amber list, this is the interesting thing that is really hard to accept. Even if they are not vaccinated, they will be entering to the UK without any quarantine. And obviously, the equity discussions is already playing a huge role here. Obviously, especially for quarantine, those who are going to quarantine, imagine a mayor who would wish to speak for 1 day or even half an hour in an event at COP, that he has to go to 5 days quarantine, even if it is paid. Imagine the challenge that he or she would receive at home that he will not be accessible for public processes. So this is a huge risk, and it's a huge burden. Therefore, we have to be very careful who should be now nominated in this processes. As we said, UK presidency has publicly made statements on the 9th of August, 1st of September, and 10th of September, whereas on behalf of LGMA Focal Point Role, I have shared since 5th of June updates that is shared in the mailing list, but also the website or blogs of Felix Dodds, our dear colleague, has also hosted these. So if you want to see the evolution, how things have evolved, you can definitely have a look at that. For us, transparency is important. It's not the destination, what you want to achieve, but how you join this journey, how you make this journey is also important. And we feel that is one of the weakest points that is coming up during the experience of constituencies with the UK presidency so far. Last week, after all these announcements from Climate Action Network and the presidencies, we have discussed whether there is any additional information here. I will not go into the details, but we have sent a long mail to the UK presidency. This was shared with the LGMA, that we were waiting for additional information. So far, some of them maybe have fulfilled. At the moment, we don't know fully of the details. We once again raised the issue of World Leaders Summit, how we will be preparing for that. And we raised once again the issue in the UK governance of the corona pandemic. There is an official mechanism that international organizations are exempt from quarantine conditions. And it is still not clear, although COP26 has announced as the biggest UN meeting in the UK's territory, this article or this provision is not used. If this provision was used, many problems would have already been solved or sorted out much smoothly. And finally, this issue about the expression of concerns from parties, how the decision making will continue, we have raised this again to the presidency. We are waiting for their information. So we'll see. There's another text that we have shared, which is, we as LGMA, we always said that we do not believe postponement is the answer to the challenge we are facing. One of the main reasons is that the UK is still not the official presidency. It's still on the shoulders of Chile. And there should be some mechanism that Chile is not anymore the presidency, and all what UK is trying to achieve is done in its authority as the official presidency. So this can be done by a procedural COP, which can be done by the ambassadors of countries to assign that COP presidency is now headed by champions. Sorry, the UK, you don't need to convene all around the world travels. I mean, the embassies in the UK can handle it. And afterwards, once the Leaders Summit is over, anything that could be virtual could still be meaningful, but noting that negotiation will still have to come back sometime in future in person. And it's still possible to advance some sort of the negotiation as well. This is exactly what has been the case in biodiversity negotiations. So unfortunately, within the LGMA, we haven't received any consensus or any support to the statement. So this text is not officially released. It is not available publicly, so please don't quote this. But as you have seen, after we circulated this draft, there was a number of statements from LDC group, from Women and Gender. So we believe sometime before COP, LGMA would still be looking for, or there will be a demand from LGMA to express how we consider all these process. So let's talk about it once we come to that later on. So now we are going to the logistics of COP26. We have shared this slide in the last presentation. We have improved it a bit, let's say, elevated it a bit more comprehensively. Let's remember, we are talking about two different zones, the UNFCCC accredited zone, blue zone, and the green zone. For the green zone, it is beat in the surrounding of the COP26 zone, or somewhere in the city of Glasgow, or somewhere in Edinburgh. Nobody needs the approval from UNFCCC. Obviously, this means that you will not get free visa as well, but at least you can go there freely without necessarily going through tedious UNFCCC process. In the blue zone, everything will be only for those who have badges. Therefore, online accessibility is now extremely important. What we will have is the three big process. One, the LGMA agenda, the pavilion, the UNFCCC agenda. This time it is at least four tracks we have to follow. We have to follow negotiations. We have to be participating in the side events. We will have to participate, or let's say follow the UK presidency agenda in the UK pavilion, and Marrakesh partnership, which is also hosted by the UNFCCC Secretariat premises. So when we say UNFCCC, let's remember there are four tracks. And there are other pavilions, and these are mainly national governments or partners. You can remember we always had events in German pavilion, US Center, EU pavilion, China pavilion, Japan pavilion, or Panda pavilion and the CP partnership. So obviously they will also have discussion about cities. So there will be also things to happen there. So LGMA pavilion, we hope, and the messaging will be interrelated with all what's going on. And obviously, why are we hosting a pavilion? Because if you look at the agendas of these sessions, we are either one of the many or we are not the one who decides the setting. So having an LGMA-led pavilion is giving us the authority that we are free to speak and claim and ask for what we want on the agenda of global climate action. We do not have to get a permission from anyone else, of course, except that we don't humiliate any party. So that is the power of the LGMA pavilion. And as you remember, this was experience in Copenhagen. It was in the blue zone. At that time, there was no blue and green zone. It was happened in Paris. It happened in Bonn. We all have seen how powerful, how beneficial, especially in this kind of milestone COPs. That's why we do not call for a pavilion at every COP, but we want to, whenever it is needed, we want to have it. This screenshot, I am asking kindly the permission of our colleagues from Global Alliance for Building and Construction. I was privileged enough to join their forum, Built Environment Forum, Building to COP Forum. This is also another visualization because there is a Cities and Regions Built Environment Day, and GABC and a group of parties, sorry, a group of partners are leading that. Here's their interpretation of what will happen at the UK pavilion and then the climate action zone. Obviously, UK pavilion doesn't clarify whether it is green zone or blue zone, so we have to think about it. And again, another way of visualization of this orientation, we call it, that they also have listed several events that was not listed in our presentation, so we are benefiting from the information shared by others as well. One important point, I would be now going to the LGMA. This is something that we noticed last week. You know, we are now talking about the blue zone on the territories of the UNFCCC. Obviously, the idea is that as long as COP is open, this pavilion spaces will also be open. However, as of today, the delegation service, which is the company who is hosting or convening all the construction of the pavilions and others, according to their website and according to their documentation, COP is starting on the 1st of November. Whereas according to UK and UNFCCC, COP is starting on the 31st of October. So there is a discrepancy. This is important, especially for us, because we, on the 31st of October, we want to launch the pavilion, that we communicate our key messages with our high-level leaders joining us. If pavilion is closed, obviously it will be very difficult. This doesn't mean that we will not communicate our messages, but it will be difficult. Secondly, on the 1st and 2nd of November, which is the Leaders Summit, whether we will have access, this will also be important because we will have to allocate slots, who speaks where. And if we assign a slot for one of our partners and that day is not open, they will damage in terms of their plans and visibility, obviously. So this is a serious issue. We raised this at the highest level to UK presidency and to the company. I hope we will get an answer soon, and I hope it will be positive, and we will be working along these lines with you. Here is again our logic. So our recommendation is that for the first 3 days, because of these ambiguities, we have to be a bit careful. We would like to not to be too much inclined for scheduling events immediately. Therefore, in the rest of the days, we should focus on primarily. When we say complementary themes, obviously, if the champions and climate presidency will talk about finance, we should talk about finance. But when we talk about finance, we also want to discuss how this money is spent. It's not the generation of money, or how we invest in local and regional governments. It's not divesting money from fossil fuels, but also investing to urban and territorial development. Or when you say youth and public environment, it's not just public environment. Youth means intergenerational equity. Youth means climate justice. Youth and future also means culture. So according to the calendar or the type of descriptions of the events of the presidency, you don't see this very visibly. Or in the nature agenda on the Saturday, we want to discuss also food and health. Or on the adaptation and loss, we want to discuss about migration, urban poor, informal settlements. So that there are a lot of topics that urban community has very been actively involved, all these themes. So the events at the LGMA Pavilion, we hope they will both relate to the official agenda, but also they will elevate these discussions prominently. And I'm also proud to announce as of today, this news came yesterday, that thanks to the generous hospitality of the Glasgow City Council, on the 11th of November in the evening, we will be welcomed at the Glasgow City Chambers upon invitation by Susan Aitken, the leader of the Glasgow City Council. And we are discussing with Glasgow City Council that this could also be designed as an LGMA hosted event, so that especially Global Climate Action Agenda partners, stakeholders, special constituencies, and friends of multi-level action, those countries who support the agenda of LGMA could also join us, so that it's like a concluding gathering. We do not want to call celebration. We do not want to call it summit. It's something gathering. And the only aim is that we want to get socially together. And just this is the end of the action agenda team. So we would like to at least conclude with a prominent setting. Here is the first time we are showing with you the layout that we are discussing with the company who is organizing the pavilions. As you see, this is a transparent and open space. It is 100 meters square. It has a podium with screens. It has audiovisual facilities like microphone and headset so that you can hear. It has a capacity of around 35 seated audience. It will have a desk and it will have some flyer distribution center. It will have a storage room, but it is mainly for the management of it. And the meeting room also will be reserved for the pavilion host, ICLEI and Scottish government in terms of their planning of this, management of this venue and other details. So we would hope that, I mean, we're about to finalize the final financial elements. It may be hard to believe, or it may be hard to imagine, but 6 weeks to go, we still don't know how much this pavilion will cost to us. Obviously, we are grateful for the generous support of the Scottish government, which is around 80% of all the costs that we're envisaging, and they're helping us to reach out to additional partners. But we are still not sure what will be the overall burden that we would all like to share with all other partners. So that's why we are hoping to get more clarity in the next couple of days. But what we are now happy, and now we're talking about a significant, let's say, center of gravity is now created. The diversity of partners who have expressed their interest to join in events in this year, either with contribution by cost or without, it is representing the global diversity that we have been working together. And we are grateful for all our partners, and we will be looking forward to additional updates as well. What is planned? So at the morning, the pavilion will be open at 8. We will have a daily briefing. This time it may be a bit diverse because Scottish government also would like to use this daily briefings. We would like to reserve a Scottish government slot as the host of the pavilion. Then we would like to reserve some slots for partners. And during the lunchtime, we want to keep it a bit more relaxed for the dialogues, time for multi-level action dialogues. We would like to come up with an idea that every day we pick up one nation, one region, and we would like to discuss about their NDCs, their national adaptation plan, and how we can connect our race to zeros, and how we can move further. And therefore, because that's the whole purpose of having a blue zone pavilion, the access to the negotiators, that is the key of this value, the value of this venue. After the sessions are going to the negotiations, we can continue with sessions by partners or co-hosts and hosts. And in the evenings, we could expect some spatial announcements or social events could also be convened upon, of course, costs covered by the host respectively. We have shared with you, those who are receiving LGMA updates, a link to the tracking sheet. We sincerely recommend all our partners to indicate their preferred date and preferred team where they would like to contribute. Even though the cost details are not available yet, we encourage you to indicate your readiness. We are very grateful for those who have already input their information. We have, for example, already heard some slots that is being clarified, at least that there's no discussion when and where, but at least they have a priority. So we'll try to accommodate all of this inputs. And finally, I would like to give at least 10 minutes for our discussions. An upcoming agenda. September will be busy in the UN. Let's remember, all UN meetings are virtual. The only UN and the only negotiation meeting that is insisting to be in person is Climate COP. This is a serious question to be answered by all UN and UK presidency and UNFCCC officials. I really believe, and I think it should be a demand that why is COP being insisted to be held in person at the time when all negotiations and all UN summits are virtual? We are not against, not to elevate the priority of the climate emergency. We are concerned that a debate that is exclusive will not produce the result that it deserves, and it will not be owned, it will not be embraced by all. That is the biggest risk that we are facing. So let's see how this will. Climate Change Africa is having their sessions virtual this week. UN General Assembly Energy and Food Dialogues is taking place. Africa Regional Climate Week is taking place. There are several local and regional government-led events. On 13th of September, we will have the second ministerial mayoral dialogue on Paris Agreement. There will be pre-COP with Italy. Daring Cities will take place on 4th to 8th of October, and Urban October will also be convened. 4th of October is the World Habitat Day. 31st of October is World Cities Day. And once again, we want to make sure the day that COP26 starts, in fact, we will not open just 2 weeks of negotiations. We are opening a new era that is the time for multi-level action. Whatever comes out of COP26 will not damage this, can only take it better. And if something happens not exactly the way we wish to happen in Glasgow, this still should not stop us to push and deliver multi-level collaboration at the national level, because it has already been taken up. The glass ceiling is broken. Now we are full speed for time for multi-level action. That is our key message for COP. So with this, I'd like to stop. I'm sorry, and I appreciate for your patience at the beginning. So I have a couple of points raised by partners. Heloise from Regions 4. So she was asking about the engagement of local and regional governments in the NAPs and NDCs. That is definitely that we'd like to work. We have been working with NDCP kayak, and we know about some of those independent from that. So we will make a list. We are expecting to come up with around 15 countries who could be prominently announced as those who have advanced since the first NDCs. So we will be happy to share with you, and we will be happy to receive any inputs as well, so that we can align ourselves. Joint statement from LGMA for the 30th of September. Start of COP, pre-COP, you mean? Okay, LGMA pre-COP statement. Definitely we could work on it, and we would be, I think there's an agenda coming up. Jeet, our colleague with a new hat, along with their colleague from WWF, moved to SIDA. Thanks, Jeet, for your inputs. Eloise is asking, do we know the process for quarantine funding? No, we don't know. Is there more information about the green zone? No, because there's no need. For green zone, don't expect any information. It's not in the authority of UNFCCC. No accreditation, we don't know. UK may, in Paris, there was a registration, but it was very loose. Regions for delegation was cut half, and we are looking for more options. I mean, even though in the Marrakesh partnership, maybe you heard Heloise, they were distributing 50 badges per day or per the thematic pathway groups. This time they're saying that badges will be only for speakers and their aides. So don't expect 50 badges from the Marrakesh partnership. And in fact, it is really a big question. Who is now receiving these 10,000 badges? It's a big question. It's not just local governments. I mean, we have heard from trade unions, we have heard from Climate Action Network. The maximum number of badges I have ever heard from one single organization is 20. This includes ICLE. I haven't heard any other organization who has received more than 20. And I would kindly request, I have received information from Regions 4, I have received from UCLG, I have received from Climate Heritage Network. Any others who would wish to share their delegation size, please inform us. And once you're comfortable, we can also share with them. And by the way, ICLE also submitted a request to increase our quota because we just heard any staff who would be managing our pavilion, any staff who would be hosting our pavilion are not having any additional badges. It is the badges that were allocated. Obviously, our badges was not designed for a pavilion. So we're already under huge pressure because we need colleagues who would manage the space. On top of it, we have to have protocols. So we are under huge pressure. So we would ask already to increase our number. The UK 100, Talia already says that the UK 100 received 4 badges. I recommend, I will open another section in the tracking sheet. So please update your informations there about the badges so that we can see who is getting what, so that we can share appropriately. Especially, this is important because once you are in, if you manage to get to COP, if you do not need a visa, but you're just able to get in there, you can have daily badges. But this doesn't secure your quarantine problems as well. So number of badges are still more than what is visible here, but still much less than what we had before. Eloise mentions about the adaptation session on the pavilion. Yes, we have noted that. I'm sure we will be able to accommodate this. And other slots will come up soon. Leo, RRI. Yes, Leo, I owe you a response for your number of messages. After this message, I will come back to you, and I already indicated RRI as a partner who have demonstrated their interest, and I appreciate your patience. I'm sure, especially with Coalition for Urban Transition and with RRI, especially with your flagship report, especially on the first couple of days, there will be a number of opportunities that we can elevate, and of course across the whole other areas as well. Shea is our new, again, another old colleague with the new hat. She just left GCOM and started at the COM SSA. So well done, Shea. Congratulations for your new task. And we're happy that you're still with us. The approving of the statement from LGMA. It is a loose, we as long as we don't hear rejections, we take it as approved. We have shared in the past, you may remember, the roadmap was also shared with discussed with a shared document. Everybody provided their inputs, and we just accommodated. And those who say that I cannot live with that, they asked others if they can change this. So it's a consensus building process. Iterate the importance of the representative from that currently cannot attend. Okay, so you mean the position of LGMA towards limitations and all this stuff? Yes, as I said, we missed this immediate, let's say, first week, but knowing that there are so many things coming up, I would still recommend that in October we may consider making a statement. What were the things that we were happy and what were not, and whether we are happy with what is coming up at the end. So I'm happy, Shea, I know you cannot speak on behalf of as an institution that is slightly bounded with an institutional affiliation for national governments, but I'm sure we should be able to find a way that we make our expressions very clear, and I'm happy to hear your support to that. We still can take time in terms of anyone who wants to intervene virtually. Carlos has put a Q&A session. Carlos from FMDV. Hi, Carlos. Are we sure that delegations who are vaccinated plus coming from amber green list will be able to access the venue even before getting the day 2 COVID test? Very likely, Carlos. I heard green amber list has almost no limitations, but there will be daily tests. There will be very frequently tests on site. So I don't have too much detailed information about this question. We have to check the information. Mark from Slowcat, thanks Mark for your contribution. The weakness and the slow speed of these multilateral UN processes, COP26, only underlines the importance of non-party mobilization and action. True, Mark, true. But we have seen, I mean, that's a very important debate that we have to all have together. Nobody is talking about the slowing of the climate action, and you have seen numerous reports that the exceeding the number of percentage of renewable energy contributions to the electricity grids, or number of countries who have canceled their coal power plants. I mean, things are changing, and the number of countries moving onwards. But obviously, we need the UN guidance, and the sad but true, the reality is that even our best of the best, most champion cities and regions, for 2030, we are sure they will not be able to deliver any of those commitments on net zeros or whatever without national and global funding. Let me give you 2 examples, and that I think would be very clear for everyone. The state of North Rhine-Westphalia, the cities that has suffered from this floods, if there were no federal funding and it was not supported by state of North Rhine-Westphalia, state of Rhineland-Pfalz, those small villages will never be able to manage those floods. This is the same for cities who have faced forest fires as well. Similarly, our colleagues in the US, if the federal legislation doesn't allow this 1 trillion infrastructure bill, again, none of the US cities can handle this. And obviously, if New York City didn't receive 50 billion funds from the US government, they wouldn't be able to manage the impacts of Katrina. So these are crucial realities. From the mega cities to megapolises, from the rural communities to coastal cities, no one is safe and no one can do this alone. Therefore, we need UN leadership. We do not want them to stop. We just want them to manage appropriately, and we look forward to additional commitments, but also implementation. So, Mark, I'm very happy that you raised this issue, but definitely we should not give up, and postponement or virtuality of COP should not be a barrier for us to make advancement. Just example of biodiversity, they have moved significantly ahead. Even they have had the second agenda for second action plan for cities and subnationals, or cities and regions and all subnationals. So it is doable. It's just that you wish and you deliver it. Let's hope this would feed into the UK and UNFCCC for COP26 as well. Ladislas, great contribution from RALGA, Rwanda Local Government Association. And we have always been working with you that you also support our vision that it should be inclusive. And we'll continue to work with you, Ladislas and RALGA, on the way forward. Finally, do we have the agenda of MP action event on the 11th? I just shared with you, Chico, I'm sorry, Hilois. Yesterday, my LGMA mailing had the agenda of the Marrakesh partnership. I will circulate once again. It's a draft. They're looking for our inputs. So any inputs by Friday or Wednesday, Friday would be welcome. I will send this again. Great. I think we reached to a level of, let's say, maturity of our discussions. Once again, sorry for your sorry for the patience in the first part. Jeet from SIDA, urban team from Swedish Development Assistance Agency. Has there been any discussion thinking of a follow-up conference from the UK presidency, looking at being inspired by the biodiversity COP setup? I imagine it may be too late now. What will be the next significant meeting after Glasgow? So for the biodiversity, we are still pushing. The UK makes an official recognition that the Edinburgh process, this process initiated by Scottish government, supported by the UK government, and supported by many networks, many advocacy partners in the biodiversity, is prominently announced at COP in Glasgow. This is very important. You all know the difficult domestic challenges between UK and Scotland, but in the biodiversity space, they demonstrated their goodwill that once they work together, they can produce a very good result. So we definitely want this to be recognized at COP. Afterwards, we still don't know, but what we know is Japan will soon announce the next version of International Zero Carbon City Forum. You are aware Japan and US are committed to advance global support to subnational action. Other than that, I don't know. You are aware that even 2020 calendar is still not very clear. Masha Smirnova, do we know which mayors will be there for the World Cities Day? That's exactly what I'm trying to get input. I will share once again the LGMA tracking sheet. So please indicate who will be expected from your delegations. As I said, I cannot guess this if I don't have the information from you. From our side, from ICLEI side, we're thinking or checking our presidium presidencies, but we will be extremely limited. We will not encouraging mobilization by many, even if they're coming from green amber list. Even, for example, for your US delegation, there is a serious issue because US citizens are not encouraged to travel to UK as of today. So if any US mayor and if any US leader goes to COP because there is no quarantine, but if something happens, be it health, be it others, they may be significantly in a difficult situation because they may be considered to be violating the recommendation from the CDC, the Federal Health Agency. And we have recommended through the US to US State Department and the UK Embassy to US to make clearly that if any US mayor, if any US citizen is going to COP, that there is a reservation or there is a mechanism that they will not be in trouble if something bad happens. This should be assured by UK and the US. So as of today, we don't know the full list. There will be several, but it's too early to speak about it. Let's stay in touch. With this, I'd like to conclude this session. Many thanks for all your efforts, and I wish you a nice day, and we'll stay in touch, and take care and goodbye.